Leader Dowd.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I won't have time to take intervention, so the House will have to forgive me for that. I'd like to thank the Honourable Member for Aberdeen South for bringing this matter to the attention of the House. Clearly, I don't want to reiterate the many points and contributions that people made today. And I hope the last week's thoughtful contributions have in turn given the Financial Secretary pause for thought. Chair, Labour believes it is necessary to take action against all forms of tax avoidance and evasion, and we stood on a manifesto which included a tax transparency and enforcement programme, and we continue to stand against any schemes of this nature in their many forms. HMRC estimates that 50,000 individuals have not paid the proper taxation as a result of disguised remuneration schemes, of which there could be up to 250 variations. And as the start of this year, roughly half of those affected, as has been indicated, 27,000 had registered with HMRC to correct their tax affairs. However, the Loan Charge Action Group estimates up to 100,000 people might be affected. The Minister may want to clarify that particular point. And what plans does the government have to undertake maybe a distributional analysis of the impact of the loan charge? At the last finance bill, we did raise that matter as an amendment, and sadly, it was rejected. Madam Deputy Speaker, it's vital to note here that many of these individuals were encouraged by other parties to enter into a disguised remuneration scheme, sometimes even by their own employers, and that's been made clear. We do not believe that the government has done enough to pursue third parties who promoted such schemes. They must surely take a share of responsibility in many cases for what took place. The report published by the government suggested that only 10 organisations are facing legal action for promoting their use, and this seems like a very small number compared to the 50,000 individuals being chased, so why few? I note also that only 1.5 pages of the 56-page report was dedicated to action against organisations promoting DR schemes, which is telling in itself. So the government has taken steps to allow those affected by the loan charge to repay their tax over a set period, with those earning £50,000 or less being granted up to 5 years to settle their affairs, and those earning £30,000 or less getting up to 7 years. And it's a question of what was the evidence to agree that time period. Were we to know more about the distributional impact of the loan charge, as Labour has repeatedly suggested, we would know whether this was manageable for individuals or not. Nevertheless, given the extreme stress that the loan charge is causing, has the government considered looking at extending this period to allow for a more gradual repayment? And this would ensure that the full tax owed can be returned to HMRC in a manner that does not weigh too heavily upon individuals. And I'd ask the Minister if he's explored this option. I'd like to raise a chair first made by Ray McCann, who's from the Chartered Institute of Taxation at the Treasury Subcommittee in December. He pointed out that the charge may be applied to those who had previously notified HMRC of their use of the scheme through the disclosure of tax avoidance schemes, but HMRC did not follow up on the disclosure, and that's been a point raised by many people. In the evidence session, Mr McCann suggested that this might leave the government in murky legal territory when trying to apply the loan charge to individuals who had disclosed and included a DOTAS number on their tax returns. The review published last week seemed to suggest that this was a minority of cases, and it rejected the assertion that legal issues may arise here. So can the Minister comment on that point, as well as setting out whether any action has been taken to rectify what does seem to be a failure of HMRC to investigate DOTAS in some cases? Will the Minister also comment on the impact of cuts in HMRC staffing and loss of expertise upon the ability of HMRC to deal with these cases quickly in advance of the deadline? Since March 2018, HMRC has lost 1,274 staff. Since 2010, that amounts to 15,637 staff. And this is a point I've repeatedly asked. Even the government's own review conceded that many individuals who have come forward to HMRC to have their cases settled have not been dealt with yet at all, or have waited a very long time for a response. So does the Minister not accept that once again we are seeing the fault lines in their programme of HMRC retraction? Clearly this is an issue of huge importance to those facing a significant increase in their tax bill, and the government must act quickly following the events that have occurred recently in relation to the personal impact upon people. And let me say, I don't impugn the Financial Secretary in any way in that regard. But the government could provide more comfort and certainty for those who are now facing very significant additional financial pressures as a result of the charge. Madam Deputy Speaker, it's important that the government acts to recoup tax owed, notwithstanding the many concerns raised by members about individual constituents' individual circumstances. So, to have a blanket approach is not appropriate at all, and we can't have a tax system which is, as one member suggested, you look at your instincts. We can't have a tax system that's ran on instinct. Now, I expect the Financial Secretary knows very well people are deeply concerned about this, and I'm sure he'll be responding as constructively and as positively as he can, given the many concerns raised by members.
Minister Mel.
Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, can I first of all welcome the return of this debate, so interestingly interrupted.